Hello friends, many times my NRI friends, when they are planning to sell property in India, they are confused about the process which generally they have to follow or they should follow if they really want a hassle-free property sale experience. So in this video, I am going to explain those things again in a stepwise manner, so that when you first think about selling a property, at least you have a plan, at least you know how you have to approach. So let's begin. So hello friends, my name is Arun Tiwari, and in this video I am going to explain you what is the standard way of selling property in India, especially if you are an NRI, and I will tell you that in a stepwise manner. So let's begin. So first thing, step number one, once you thought that you want to sell a property, better you have to consult these some things with a chartered accountant, especially what is the capital gain you are going to get or the lower TDS you want to apply, okay, because these things has to be planned in advance. Especially the same things even more important when you are planning to sell a property which is inherited property or there is a joint property, okay, so then you have to plan the taxes accordingly and some documents you have to sign in advance. So the step number one, you have to approach a chartered accountant and understand the tax consequences, and if possible you should initiate the process of lower TDS then and there itself, because lower TDS takes time, and maybe once you have a buyer, he will not be, or he may not be ready to wait for a 45 days which generally takes to take the lower TDS. So that is the step number one. Step number two, after that you should start finding a buyer. Now you can find buyer nowadays yourself also, because there are so many websites where you can register your property for free. For example, nobroker.com and other websites are also there. Plus you should approach multiple brokers so that you can get a better idea that what is your property real value, what is the price it commands. I have seen a lot of time people just depend on one broker or one person, and most of time they don't get the value of the property which they should get it, because you are not here, so you might not be aware that what is the property rates are going on, okay, and what is the situation going on. Sometimes it happens in reverse way also. What happen, some of NRI friends, they expect a lot of they expect a more you can say value for the property, but maybe in that particular time that particular area is not so much famous or it has not delivered the growth, so you may not be able to get the price. And that's when happen when somebody has a unexpected price expectation, then the property doesn't get sold, and generally they have to sit on that property for 2-3 years, and then after, out of frustration, they sell, you can say as a stress sale. So the better idea always to register online and at least deploy 2-3-4 people, and also if you have good relations, you can just ask around, maybe somebody who is residing in India, that what is the price going on. So at least you have a reasonable expectation from the property. And another benefit of doing that you will get more buyer, and then you can negotiate the price, not only price but your term of sale, that how you want to sell the property. And the most important part of on those terms are, try to sell your property in white. Generally, see, nowadays people will not insist selling on black or giving you black. I am speaking this on record, but I'm telling you, India has changed a lot, and if you are selling now, you can find a lot of buyer who will give you 100% white, and they will be very happy. And actually this is good for buyer also. And as an NRI, you should not be getting into this all these things, because as an NRI, handling those things will be very problematic for you. And understand, now everything is connected. So even suppose you find somebody who gives you some part as a cash, settling that cash will not be easy, and if income tax find outs, it will be real nightmare for you. So always this is the first term should be for you, that I am planning to sell this property completely in white, because that is the best for you, and also that is best for buyer in long term. So I will make some other video where I will explain why, just to save a little bit of stamp duty or a little bit of capital gain tax, people end up getting into a bigger mess. So that is a step number 2, where you have to find out people, you have to register property online so that you can get a better idea and you can sell as per your terms. Then comes the step number 3. Once a buyer approach you, the first important part is to find out whether the buyer is genuine or not. So generally, how you check the genuineness? There is a small token amount is accepted, which can be 1 lakh rupees, 50,000 rupees. That buyer has to give, and then generally you give the Xerox copy, or you can say the copy of your document, so that he can do the legal verification. Okay, so this is a way to ensure that the buyer is serious, and you should not distribute the copy of your property documents to everybody who is approaching you, right? So this is a document which is called memorandum of understanding. It's not a legal document, but it is basically an understanding between two people, where somebody will give you some token amount, and then he will take Xerox copy of your property papers, and then he can do the legal background check. Generally in MOU, the term of payment is also mentioned that if he like the property and there is no legal problems, then maybe within 30 days he will give the first payment, which is called the his own contribution. So that I will come on next step. So third step is always, when somebody is approaching, you have to ensure the buyer is genuine, so that you should not spend, or you should not kill your time. Another way, I already explained that sometimes what happens, that real estate agents approach you, and they will approach you as a genuine buyer, and then generally what happens, their intention is not to buy property, but to just get into some kind of agreement, so that they can sell your property at a premium and they can take the difference. So you always have to understand who is the buyer, what is his background, and what exactly he is doing. If he is from a real estate, I'm not saying you should not deal with the people who are real estate broker or who are from real estate industry, but you should ensure that he is buying property for himself, and he is not just trying to make some money out of this deal. Okay, because most of cases such deal get into issue when he doesn't find a buyer within a 30 or 40 days period. So just ensure in third step that you are dealing with genuine buyers, and I told you two way how you can decide. Yeah, first thing, take some token money and sign a MOU, and second thing, always ensure he is buying property for himself and he is not getting into just to make some money out of this deal. Step number 4, after that, once buyer is okay with your property, there is no legal problem and everything, then second thing comes, which is called agreement to sell. Now agreement to sell is where the buyer has to give you his contribution. For example, he is going to pay 20% of the property. So that 20% part of property he will give it to you. He will pay the stamp duty, and then you both can go for a registration, which is called registration of agreement to sell. So now understand, the agreement to sell is an initial document, not the final document. Final document is called sale deed, which I will explain you in the next step. So in step number 4, the buyer will pay you whatever contribution, maybe 20%, 30%, 50%, and you will go for a registration. Now in some cases what can happen, buyer do not want to go for a loan, he already have all the funds. Then the agreement to sale will not be executed. Directly sale deed will be executed, but sale deed will be only executed once you receive 100% payment from the buyer. Now what can happen, generally either he can pay in advance, or what can happen that he will pay you say 80% and 20% amount he will pay on the day or one day before the registration, just to ensure his safety part. Otherwise in most of the cases, I am saying 80-90% cases, buyer generally takes loan. So in loan cases, first they will go for the agreement to sale by paying his own contribution, whatever contribution he want to make, and then you people have to go for registration for agreement to sell. At the time of registration of first document, buyer has to pay stamp duty. Once stamp duty is paid, this is a binding contract. Now nobody can back off. Seller can back off only in situation when buyer doesn't pay the money in the stipulated time, and buyer can back off if there is something hidden which comes out, which have a dent on the title of the property, maybe something which he is not able to find out earlier. So that is general reason. Otherwise, once the agreement to sale is drafted, 90%, 95% I will say the property will go for a final deed or final documents. So this is step number 4. Now as I told you, if buyer is not taking, this is the final step. If buyer is not taking loan, if buyer is taking loan, then there is another step is left, which is called taking the loan from the bank. So generally in that step what happens, the first agreement will be deposited with the bank, as a mortgage, and bank will release the balance part of payment to the seller. And then after that, after receiving the final payment, seller and buyer will go for the second agreement, which is called a conclusive agreement, which is generally it is known as sale deed. So in some states sale deed is mandatory, some states it's not mandatory, but if you ask me from the legal point of view, it's always better, because sale deed basically indicates that both buyer and seller has completed their obligations. Seller has received the payment and buyer has got the possession. So that sale deed basically concludes the whole deal. So that's how you should approach. Now, one thing I missed out purposely, which is lower TDS, where the lower TDS will come into picture. So generally lower TDS you have to apply as soon as you decide you want to sell the property. So there are two phases in lower TDS application. Phase 1, seller has to do and buyer doesn't require at that point of time. And the second phase where you finalize a buyer and then we apply for a lower TDS. So the most of time people are confused that 45 days it will take and only after that they can go for registration. That is not true. The registration part and the lower TDS certification part both go parallelly. So you don't have to wait for that. So hope I have explained you a proper way how you should go stepwise when you're planning to sell property, because lots of time I just receive the same question again and again. Sir, I am planning to sell property, what should be the procedure, what should be steps? So these are the steps which you have to take care, and if you just follow properly, I don't think there will be any problem. If there can be modification in this steps depending on the kind of property. Okay, so if something extra is coming in the way, you can always ask the question. You can put your question as a comment and either me or my team will come back. So hope this video makes sense. Hope this video will help you, and better if you write it down before you start the procedure. It will work as a guide for you. So that's all in this video. Thank you. Have a nice day.